All right, what's going on, everybody? It is Crafty with the Crypto Takeover podcast, resurrecting this thing from the dead. We are Phoenix Rising. We haven't done anything in over a year, so apologies for that. I know we had quite a few listeners. My partner decided to travel the world, and it got a little tricky for us to get things recorded, but we are back in action. I have a fantastic partner that's going to be joining me here soon for future episodes. But today we have a very, very special guest, and he is going to talk about his awesome company, YOM. And they're going to be the first decentralized cloud gaming network. And that sounds like a mouthful, but man, that just makes me feel good inside. I don't know about y'all, but I'm super excited to talk to Jeff here, and I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about himself first, and then we'll dive into the company. We'll dive into what DePIN means and all that stuff. So Jeff, tell us give us your full name, give us a little bit about yourself, how you got into this.
Yeah, thanks, Crafty. I appreciate the intro. So, Jeff Outlaw, and I've been working with the YOM for just about since the beginning of this year. But my career goes back about 24 years. I actually got into video games back in the days of the GameCube and the PlayStation 2, right? So I go back quite a while.
Yeah.
I actually was an artist and an animator at the beginning. I'm working on the character teams and that kind of thing, concept art. But eventually worked my way into production roles and project management roles and running studios, and then came into the Web3 space. But I should say I worked at Oculus for a little while too. Did a lot of VR projects. Okay. Honestly, they were a lot of fun. I still have my Quest over here. But got into the Web3 space about 4 years ago. Was when games and blockchain started getting together, because I got my first Bitcoin, I guess, in 2017. Right. Okay. So when those two worlds came together, I said, well, I gotta make my move and move my career over there. So I've been on now 3 different Web3 projects. This one being the one that I'm kind of the most passionate about, because what we're delivering, I think, is going to be great, not just for Web3 games, but for the whole gaming industry.
Sure. Well, good deal. Well, that's awesome, man. So you've got quite a bit of background in gaming in general, man. I remember GameCube. I used to play a game called Metroid, which started out, I think, on Game Boy. I remember playing that one on Game Boy.
Yeah. my claim to fame game on the GameCube was Geist. It was one of the last titles just before the GameCube kind of closed down, but it was a pretty mature, like a first-person, third-person shooter.
Okay.
Like horror game. It was well received. It's a little cult following. Some people will remember.
Yeah. Good deal. Well, cool. Well, why don't you tell us the term DePIN? Like, it just sounds weird. It's this odd-looking term when you just look at it too. Why don't you tell us what DePIN, stands for and what it means, and then what it's going to be doing for crypto in general. There's so many projects doing DePIN stuff right now. I'm farming a few of them, and I think it's going to be a big deal in the gaming world as well. So break that down a little bit for us.
Yeah, because I tripped over it too when I first joined into YOM. I think our CTO explained it to me 3 times before I finally completely understood it. So what it comes down to is breaking the word down first: decentralized physical infrastructure network. That's what DePIN means, right? So what it basically means is there's a lot of equipment around the world that can be linked together and forming a network from all these individual units, as opposed to having like a large central server, which people use Amazon or Azure as a central server. Instead of doing that and using those big centralized versions, DePINs go out and find equipment or physical devices around the world, whether it be phones or computers, and use a little bit of the processing power on those devices to be the network, to replace that central server. So most DePINs are asking you to provide a little bit of your resources to their network in order to power their network, and therefore not needing that central model.
Good deal. Like the first thing, like when I first got into DePIN type of stuff, the first thing that people think about is security, right? There's like, man, I'm providing you seemingly a lot of info from my side for you to utilize this. What's the security for me in that? Can you explain that a little bit and maybe debunk some of that?
Well, Honestly, I'm a little nervous about these debunking. I would say for our project, it was certainly top of the mind for us, and we
Sure.
designed around it. But I think a lot of them, what they do, and if they're smart, they do it this way. They make a container such that it doesn't really interfere with what's going on in your system in the background. You're not really giving up information. But others of them do require that you enable things like your location. Some of the ones for the phones, right? They do location based stuff. And so
Sure.
you have to have your location on all the time for your phone, and you are actually giving up that data. But some people aren't concerned about that, right? They're happy to give up that data if they're getting paid for it. Because
Right.
the upside of a DePIN is you're earning passive income from the equipment that you own, which can be for some people really, really beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, a couple of the projects, and I don't know if this one's a DePIN project specifically, but like Grass. Have you heard of Grass?
I have.
So there's that one that I have, and then Gaimin,
Yep.
GAIMIN. That's another one that's actually in the gaming side, and that one actually does use your video card, and then they're branching out into other peripherals as well. But tell us about YOM and what is YOM doing and how does it using your DePIN, the DePIN, and tell us all about that project and what you guys are looking to accomplish short term, and then what your goals are maybe 5-10 years, from now.
Wow. Okay. Now let's make sure I get all these in order. So our DePIN is using gaming computers around the world to act as that central server. So instead of using what when cloud gaming first came out, it was I had a high school teacher who used to say new technology is always expensive and lousy, right? And that's kind of what happened to cloud gaming. It was expensive because these central servers, it's expensive to build them and then maintain them, or the cooling costs and the maintenance
Sure.
costs and manpower. So they would just Amazon and all those, they pass those costs down to game developers. So hosting a game on a central server is expensive. And then it would be lousy if the end user was too far away from that central server. The games would lag really bad. And this was Stadia kind of fell down on, right? They had all kinds of issues with lag. So what we do with the DePIN network, by using gaming rigs around the world and having them lend us their unused cycles, we can make sure that we find a node closest to the end user, so we get away with not having that lag issue. And then the cost is so much cheaper. Like we can save 93% lower than Amazon. It's about we can get between like 2 and 7 cents per user hour, as opposed to Amazon's $1 per user hour. So for game developers, super nice. And the idea of cloud gaming, right? The whole draw for cloud gaming for developers was you can get these AAA quality Unreal projects out to any device. So the laptop that the schools gave kids to do their homework on, or your mobile phone, instead of needing to have a high-end computer, you're running those high-end games on your crappy laptop,
Right.
because we're doing all the processing on a different computer on a node further just a couple down the street from you or in your town. So that's the way that our DePIN is set up. That's what YOM does with us.
Very cool.
And your other questions, I'm going to try to get them all in order.
No, you're good.
So what our technology is really, every place that you've seen an you've seen a YouTube video embedded into a website, right? What we do is, instead of think of that as just a one-way stream, right? They're streaming video content at you. What we can do with our technology is stream both ways, right? So an interactive video embedded into a URL. So for gaming projects, that means like I just put up I just at mygame/game. So at my website, I can have the game running for people who want to play it without having to download it, or they don't have a powerful machine. But then also things like we've talked to some of the different Web3 news articles, news outlets, about embedding, say, a game review article, but having the game running in a small window inside the game review article. So for the games, as they're doing their marketing, they can also let a sample version of the game be played inside the article that's talking about it.
Very cool.
And again, that's just the game side of things. I mean, you talk about future use cases.
Yes.
And I've written a bunch of Medium articles you can find on our Medium site, but things like social media, where one of our theses is that over time, the whole of the internet is going to be going to Web3. I'm sorry, it's going to go into 3D, right? My son plays Fortnite. But he doesn't just play; he talks to his friends through Fortnite, right?
Right.
So social media eventually is going to transition into 3D media. Instead of a Facebook page, there'll be a Facebook apartment
Mm,
that these kids will, update and decorate and then have people over to and watch movies or play games, but they'll do it in a 3D space. And you can monetize that through advertisement. If you think of the user flow, like you come over to my place, we're going to play some poker together, but I'm going to be my purple gorilla avatar and you're whatever avatar you want to be.
yeah.
But you go to my refrigerator and you open it up and there's a Red Bull in there and you click on it and you get a coupon for a discount for Red Bull. I get some money in my account because I've advertised Red Bull for them. Like, there's all kinds of activations that way that'll happen in these
Wow.
2D spaces. But again, this will only happen if you can do 3D at a much lower cost than what Amazon would be. Again, at the 2 to 7 cents level, this kind of thing can be free, like a YouTube is free to upload videos. This is like uploading gaming content for free.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Man,
and
you just blew my mind with the whole Facebook apartment thing.
I,
That is really, really, that's a neat concept. You talk about the metaverse and stuff like that, but then when you actually drill down to like very specific use cases like that, that's neat. That's neat to think about for sure.
yeah. I think when I hang out with my buddies in real life, like I want to play, they listen to this new artist I just discovered. Like I use Spotify a lot, and I like finding garage bands. So hanging out but some of my buddies are down in Florida, some out in California. We can't really hang out anymore.
Right.
But if we hang out in a 3D space and it's actually 3D sound inside one of these apartments, and we're again, like I said, playing poker or something like that, and I can put on music, shooting in through Spotify that they hadn't heard before. Like that's kind of an evening for me, for my friends who are scattered across the country.
That's really, really cool. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now YOM is so we're the delivery system. We're the network that enables this kind of thing to happen at a low price.
Mhm.
We're not the game makers. We have a lot of studios in our orbit who are making content for us. We have a lot of brands that are working hard to get their content out in front of into the gaming market, because they know that that's movie kids don't go to movies or music or TV anymore for advertisement. They're really just playing games.
Sure.
So these big brands are trying to find ways to market to them, and they're doing things like doing brand marketing inside of Fortnite and Roblox, which is a good way to get brand recognition, but they can't monetize out of that. So what we're suggesting to those brands is you can still do those, but then when you want to actually monetize, put a game on your website and allow the points from the game to be redeemed like coupon points for buying their merchandise at a discount.
Mhm.
So that kind of a transaction is probably it's going to be on the way. Commerce is another thing that we enable with what we're talking about.
Sure. Okay, so with all this amazing technology and whatnot, and it's awesome for me to be able to utilize this from a gaming aspect and play on my crappy computer, or whatnot. Now we're getting a larger reach, across the world, and so many more people can now play these games and all this stuff, which is fantastic. A big part of the crypto world is kind of, without trying to use our tagline, but taking over control of our finances again, right? And bringing that back home and making money and various different ways. And so, how does YOM? Is there? Let's see. How do I phrase this? Is there any way? What does it do for me from a financial aspect? Is there any of that?
Oh no, it's a great question. So the two ways, right? The people who own the gaming rigs, who are purchasing our nodes and running our nodes off their gaming rigs, right? For them, it's immediate. They're earning revenue passively for every hour of gaming content that their node streams. And we have a reward system that sends more work to their computers if they've got a high reputation. But just the idea that you set your gaming computer up overnight and generate, this is what my son's most excited about. He can earn about $200 a month. He'll probably do about $200 a month because he'll only run it overnight. But that'll buy him a new monitor inside of a month. And he's like, great. And I'm like, great, because I don't have to buy your new monitor for you.
Of course.
And then it's onto a driving rig. So on the node operator side, that's one way. And again, we feel good about this because we're decentralizing the revenue, right? Taking money out of the hands of AWS and putting it out into local economies through having node operators, earn income.
Yeah.
But for the people who are, what you're saying about playing the games through a web browser, some of the highest yield games are going to be the AAA titles, right? So meaning that if I don't have a really strong computer, how am I going to be able to gain yield off of the Star Atlases of the world?
Sure.
Well, by having, access to that same game and the higher yield games through a web browser,
Mm.
we open up that avenue for generating revenue from the yields of those kinds of games. So we approach this with making sure that we could affect both sides of the good computer, not good computer
Yeah.
paradigm.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. I mean, if my son could start making an income, I mean, my son's only 9, and then the other one's younger than him. If they could start making an income just by having something like this set up on their own computer and doing that, I mean, that opens up. That's pretty cool. I mean, that's pretty amazing. I mean, let alone from guys our age, but now you're talking like way down the chain, and they're a lot of times more tech savvy than us in many ways, and will be as they get older, right? Because they've just grown up in this world.
I would say, anymore. I just did it to my wife the other day, driving in the car. I wanted to do something on my phone, but I don't want to do it while I'm driving. My wife's sitting next to me. My son's in the back seat. I handed him the phone. I said, hey, do this for me real quick.
Your wife's like, hey, come on.
No, she knows.
But yeah, exactly. And so being able to take advantage, of this kind of thing at such a young age, pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then
I should circle back though to your security question, because it's a serious concern,
yes.
right? And I didn't really explain. So for us, what our nodes are a external hard drive, an SSD that we call it plug and earn, but you plug that into your computer and boot off of this hard drive as opposed to booting off your normal one for the times that you want to be in node mode.
Mm.
It's a special OS. It's a Linux based operating system, so it goes faster and all.
Yeah.
But that is because we feel people's concerns about the idea of downloading software and putting it on your home computer, especially gamers, right? They should be rightly protective of their own hard drives. So we don't do that. That's why we have a separate device. We use this graphics card, and we use a little bit of the CPU, a little bit of RAM, and the sound card, but we never invade their hard drive. And that's an important distinction between the way that we're orchestrating or architecting our solution and some of the other ones that we've seen.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's huge. And the first question that comes to mind with that, does that then incur maybe a higher upfront cost for this type of node, or no?
No, I think that, so what we have our nodes priced at right now, retail is $9.99. And that's competitive with a lot of the other node sales that we've seen. Considering, some of the other ones have gone north of like $12,000, which is, I don't really understand that model. But no, and then the way that we have it priced as well, with our modeling anyways, we have it set that you could earn, if you were to take a high-end computer and run it for 24/7 across the year, which is not the general use case, but there are some people who can do this. The yield will be 480%. So over the year, right? So it's easily getting back that $1,000 $9.99
initial investment. Yeah.
So that's but that's not the general use case. We expect people are going to just do it at the 8 hours, in the overnight hours, or maybe if they're gone on vacation, they might run it for a week.
Sure. Yeah. Because it's not something that you can run at the same time while you're doing other things on your computer, correct?
You cannot. That's right. You have to set it into node mode because we're running off of the node, the other hard drive.
Right. Right.
And that's once again intentional for security reasons. We don't want to mix those two together.
Sure. Yeah. No, I think that's a big distinction to make, and I'm glad you came back to that, because when I do start talking about our kids utilizing this stuff, people start getting a little,
sure,
squirmy in their chair because, you start talking about my kids. And it's rightfully so. I get the same way. So making that distinction is key for sure. So how long has YOM been doing this now? How old's the company?
So YOM was founded in 2020. Okay. But back in the beginning, they were doing metaverse spaces, doing content, games and things. While what they were doing, they built some of those experiences and then realized, wow, putting this up on Amazon, it's expensive. Let's do a new solution.
Yeah.
And they started building a DePIN back then before DePIN was actually a word. They didn't even, they just knew they needed a better network to deliver this stuff on.
Sure.
When we came in at the beginning of this year, we realigned the business to say, let's partner with studios and let them make the content, and we'll just focus ourselves on the delivery network.
Yeah.
So we've been around since 2020. The token was launched in 2023. It's a Solana-based token.
Okay.
It's traded on Radium and Orca,
And
so
what's
it's available
that
for
ticker?
trade.
What's the
It's just YOM,
YOM?
YOM.
Okay.
Yeah.
The
So it's
money
available.
sign
It's out there.
YOM.
Yeah. And we had, we're that is a payment mechanism, right? That's how we pay the node operators. We pay them
Sure.
in YOM,
Yeah.
but it's deflationary. What we've done is we have a cap supply of 300 million.
Okay.
And then as we get the developers to purchase their space, their network time, we convert that to YOM, and then we pay the node operators. But we also burn 5% of the tokens that go through that process. So what we have over time is a decreasing amount of YOM available for circulation, while we have an increasing amount of games getting put onto the network.
Okay.
So that chase of more game time with less YOM is what makes the token deflationary. And that's, again, part of our tokenomics scheme. It's intentional.
Very, very nice. Okay, good deal. And is that available for people to look at, like on your website and stuff?
Oh yeah, all this stuff is there. So,
Okay.
but we have a funny name. It's yom.ooo.
Yes.
Everyone wants to go to the .com or .net, but we cornered the .ooo market.
Yes.
For ourselves, and so yom.ooo is our website, and then our white paper is linked from there as well.
Okay, perfect. And I'll put these links in the show notes and everything as well, so people can get them pretty easily.
Nice.
Well, cool. Well, man, I think we've covered quite a bit. We've explained DePIN, we've broken that down. We debunked the security issue with YOM specifically. I think you still have to be careful with certain projects, kind of like you said. You just need to do your research and everything like that. But it sounds like YOM's got a really cool way to do that. Are you one of the only companies doing it that way? I hadn't.
We have not seen, again, there are other projects that are in the DePIN space who are saying they're tackling gaming. I think we're the only ones that we've seen that is doing streaming from the nodes. Others are doing the orchestrating from the node, but they're streaming from the central server, which again is going to have we expect they're going to have a latency issue. That the lag is still going to be bad. If you're streaming from a central server, you're going to have lag. It's just, you can't avoid it. Yeah. That's why we think our solution is unique. But again, I can't take credit for any of this, because our CTO is like, he's been there from the beginning. The guy is just brilliant. But when he explained it to me, and we go back and forth because of what I understood from games and everything, we can go back and forth. I can be a sounding board for him. And when he has an idea, I'll say, no, shouldn't it be, do it this way or that way? And again, he's just a really bright guy. Yeah. But yeah, no, we've not seen a competitor yet in the space that's focused the way that we're focused on delivering it in the way that we're delivering it.
Very, very cool. And what's your CTO's name?
I'm gonna muckle his last name, Velzabor.
Okay, good deal. I could see how you might mess that up.
He's Dutch. Our
cool.
engineering team is in the Netherlands. And if you've not been to the Netherlands, it's worth the trip. It was an awesome time. We were just out there a little bit ago, visiting the tech team and having like an on-site.
Oh, heck yeah. Very, very cool. That's the other thing I love about this space, is there's just people from all over the world inside of it.
Yeah. I live in the middle of the upstate of South Carolina. I'm surrounded by farmland, and it's rare that an airplane passes over me, and this is like the best life for me. So yeah, I love the idea that Web3 lets us kind of live where we want to, but still work with a whole bunch of great people from around the world.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many neat aspects about it. Well, very cool. Is there anything we didn't touch on that you would want people to know about YOM?
I would say, the registration for getting on the allow list for the nodes, that's open right now on the website, so that people should go there. Perfect. Certainly our Telegram and our Discord are very active, so people should get involved in those as well. Okay. And follow our Twitter. Okay. But as you say, I say the same thing to everybody that you've said, right? Do your research, dig deep. We're happy to have our white paper scrutinized, and every now and then someone comes back and asks a question that we're like, oh, you know what? Now you pushed us, and we got to go answer that question ourselves. Right. It's rare. It's more rare now than it used to be. Sure. But it still can happen, and we invite it. But yeah, I think those are the pieces I would get off as a closing comments.
Okay, very cool. Well, how can people, so I'm going to have all these links and everything inside the show notes for the
Sure.
white paper and the website, and then where to find a node if you want to get involved that way. What is YOM on X? Is it?
We are. Oh, that's a fine question, actually.
Well, I'll put it in the
I,
show notes. Don't worry about
all
that. I'll
right.
put it in the show notes. How did people follow you on X?
Oh, so I'm Glasswalker PFFT.
Okay, perfect.
Because my gamer tag from before I even got my first game job was Glasswalker, and I've just kept it for how much 26 years.
Right, right.
So
You have to think about that now.
yeah, it goes back quite a way. But you can't just go plain Glasswalker, so I put PFFT like at
Oh,
the
I
end.
like it. I like it. Very cool. Well, I will put a link for people to follow you as well. Jeff, this has been fantastic. I've learned some things, and I appreciate you telling us all about yourself and the company and the great things that YOM is doing.
Well, thanks for having me, Crafty. I do appreciate it. The YOM project has been an exciting one, and I'm glad that we're able to do for the gaming industry what it's done for me for the past 24 years. Bring it some new technology that'll help it out.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting. I think this is honestly gaming is I think where we onboard the millions into crypto. I think it's the on ramp. It's something I'm passionate about. I've been a gamer for a very long time. I'm playing all sorts of them. I'm trying genres I've never tried before. you know,
Yeah.
and so it's super fun. There's all kinds of games for all types of people, and it's going to be really really neat to see these types of projects. YOM specifically, just make that even more accessible across the world. So very cool. Well, good deal. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen. And I hope you learned something. If you want more information about YOM or Jeff and what they're doing in this space, then you can check the show notes in the description and find all the links for Jeff and YOM and how to follow them, learn more about the company and what they're doing. Check that out in the show notes. And we will continue the next episode, maybe in a week or two from now after I release this one. So stay tuned, hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed this, and we'll go from there. So appreciate everybody tuning in, and we will catch you on the next episode.